You're now back inside the Lady Charmaine Live Show, and I'm your host, Lady Charmaine. And right now, we're about to have a conversation. We're going to be talking about working towards a smoke-free multi-unit housing and outdoor spaces. And I want you to help me welcome to the Lady Charmaine Live Show, Ms. Valarie Scruggs from Serving Our Legacy Valarie Scruggs from Saving Our Legacy African Americans for Smoke-Free Safe Places, the Soul Project, and also Pastor Deborah Simmons from South Sacramento Christian Center and the Soul Project's Tobacco-Free Communities Campaign. Welcome, ladies.
Well, thank you. Welcome. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm so glad to have you here. So today we're just going to jump right into it. So, Miss Valarie, can you tell us about the Soul Project and your new campaign, Take Back Our Breath, or Take Back Your Breath, and what are your main goals?
Right, so Saving Our Legacy African Americans for Smoke-Free Safe Places is an organization that was started in 2007 to really help educate people about the dangers of cigarette smoking and tobacco and nicotine. And in today's time, we are actually working on advancing smoke-free multi-unit housing and outdoor spaces, because there's no safe amount of exposure to smoke. Once one person smokes, everyone who's inhaling that around them is getting that smoke into their lungs. So our goals are really to educate people so they can make informed decisions about the behaviors that they want to engage in, how they might want to protect the family members around them, and really to let them know what the risks are that are involved.
So, Pastor Deborah, as a community leader, why do you believe it's crucial to campaign smoke-free environments?
Well, I believe the church has always been a pillar of hope for our communities. And in Hosea 4:6, it tells us that my people perish for lack of knowledge. And that means that we're destroyed because we don't have knowledge about what's happening with nicotine, smoke-free housing. And so as community leaders, we have to get involved and stay connected, have the knowledge, and then pass it on to our congregations or to our organizations. And you ask the question, why? My response is, why not?
Okay.
Yes.
Now, many people believe that smoking helps relieve stress and is a social activity. Can you explain how the tobacco industry has targeted African Americans and the actual impact smoking has when it comes to stress and finances?
For decades, the tobacco industry has they've done a wonderful job. They've gone into our African American magazines like Ebony and Jet and Essence. They've come to all of our cultural events, our concerts and things to really target African Americans. They knew that high school students way back in the 70s were like their audience. If they could get them hooked, and at the high school age, they had a lifelong customer. And so they're still doing those things in this day and age. 25% of vape companies are owned by tobacco companies. So It was originally pitched to us as, a way to get people off of smoking, but it still has the same dangers and the same, it has even more chemical buildup in those products than there were before.
Do you know how true that is? Do you know, I bought my first pack of cigarettes from this pretty box, and it was floral, and it had a pretty black lady on it, and she just looked so happy. And I wasn't even really old enough to smoke, and I bought the box because of her. And you're so right. Mm-hmm. And she was pretty, and the box was too.
It represented us, right?
It did.
It represented you. And so they're doing the same things with our youth. Oh, this is cool. Oh, it looks like a highlighter. It looks like a USB drive. It's discreet. It's fun. It's new tech. But it comes with a lot of damaging effects to our lungs, and long-term it can lead to cancer and heart disease.
And I found that I wasn't a smoker. My lungs can take it. So yeah, you are so right. Okay, so what are some of the dangers associated with secondhand smoke exposure, regardless whether it's tobacco, marijuana, or vaping?
Yeah, as I said earlier, smoke is smoke. Anytime you're inhaling something that's combustible, that there's been a fire that started it and something is burning, that is where those carcinogenic properties come from that can infect our lungs. And even though we're saying we're, just doing it occasionally, there's no safe exposure. Because of our melanated skin, melanin actually holds on to nicotine twice as long as it does in other communities. And so that's one of the things that makes it much harder for people to quit smoking, that for people of color, because we actually have a chemical reaction that's going on in our bodies.
This is so educational for me, because what you're saying is so true, because I know someone, they had been trying to kick smoking, even to the point when their mom was in the house on oxygen. Even the nurses came and put signs in the house, no smoking, and they still could not stop smoking, not even for their own mom's health, because of the addiction. And so you said that was very powerful. So we're going to talk about these menthol cigarettes, because I remember growing up, people used to smoke Newports with menthol, and it was supposed to be like the best one. So Pastor Deborah, we're going to talk about menthol. Why is it particularly harmful and heavily used in African American communities? Can you elaborate on why menthol cigarettes are so dangerous?
Sure. Menthol is a poison to humans, just like rat poison is a poison to rats. And it's that cooling sensation that allows people to hold it in longer, which means it's going deeper into the lungs. You can hold it in longer, and so it's causing more damage. 85% of African Americans smoke menthol cigarettes. And also, as Valarie said, that menthol binds to the melanin in our body that makes the color and all that. It binds to it. And so that means it's a substance, it's just harmful, and then it makes addiction stronger and harder to break.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so powerful. I love reading this information. So, Ms. Valarie, how prevalent is secondhand smoke exposure in multi-unit housing, and how does it impact non-smokers, particularly children? Because I grew up, everybody was smoking. We never knew what was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They smoked in the car. You even had cigarette lighters in the car growing up. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, children are in those developmental stages. So both their brain, their heart, their lungs, all of those things are developing. And so it's been shown to increase risk for asthma in children, increase risk for ADHD in children. They're breathing it, and it's secondhand smoke. So even though they are not directly smoking it, they're breathing in that secondhand smoke. And secondhand smoke also turns into third-hand smoke. The chemicals that you're smelling, they settle down on furniture, on blinds. Have you ever walked into a room and nobody's in there smoking right then, but you can smell it? That's the third-hand smoke residue, those particles that have settled. So for children, and particularly like our toddlers and our younger kids, they may be crawling around on the floor, they may be touching clothing of someone who's been smoking, that goes directly into them. And so 1 in 7 Black children are exposed to secondhand smoke in multi-unit housing, because more African Americans live in multi-unit housing than some other ethnicities, and it's 1 in 5 children overall.
Now, according to your data, a significant majority support smoke-free policies in multi-unit housing and outdoor spaces. Why do you think there's such a strong support of these measures?
Well, in particular, I think even when we've done surveys in the past, many people who are smoking have tried to quit. Many of them, they've tried multiple times and continue to try to quit smoking. So when you ask them about supporting policies to quit smoking, they come back with, they wish they had never started. They wish they had known how difficult it was going to be for them to start smoking. So they're wanting to protect their family members, their community members, just as well from the struggles. We've also talked to many people who've had other conditions. They've had heart conditions, they've had lung cancer that they've experienced related to their smoking, or they've lost loved ones for smoking. So they know that there's a risk. It's just really hard for people who, once they start, to quit. So we need to provide a lot of love and support around them to help them quit, but really to take a lot of efforts to really educate people as to why never to start.
Because my grandmother was a smoker. She had congestive heart failure. So did my grandfather.
Yeah.
So I saw the effects of smoking.
It's very common.
So for property managers considering a smoke-free policy, what are some of the key benefits beyond just health improvements?
In particular, there are discounts on their insurance that are available. It helps to not put them in a difficult position. You know, we've had property managers that have, you know, they're caught between the non-smoker who doesn't want to have smoking there and the smoker who wants to be able to smoke on their patio and have their rights, but their smoke is drifting into that non-smoker's apartment complex. In this particular example, the woman had a child who had asthma, and it was triggering that child's asthma every day, so much so that she wasn't able to utilize the whole, you know, the family apartment, to go in the kitchen, to go in the family room. She had to stay back in her room as to not have an asthma attack. So it puts them in a very difficult position, trying to create a healthy environment for everyone who lives there. But then they, you know, there's signage that they can put up, and there's ways that they can create a healthier environment by just not having smoking at all in their spaces.
I love it. Okay, Pastor Deborah, how can church leaders and other organizations get involved in supporting smoke-free communities, and how can they help smokers that want to quit?
Well, annually, the Soul Project hosts a No Menthol Sunday, and we just had that in May. And then in November, it'll be Breaking Free Day. And so we're just asking organizations, pastors, when you receive the information, don't toss it aside. If you don't have time to address it, appoint somebody in that organization or congregation to champion the project, because it's so important. And then collectively, we have to support laws that ban the smoking in the multi-housing units.
Now, can anyone share like a real life story about the challenges residents face with secondhand smoke in their homes? You shared one earlier. Do you have another one you could share?
Well, I know that it gets all in your clothes and every place else. You can tell a smoker as soon as they walk up. You know, it's everywhere, and we just have to create spaces where it's not so invasive.
Even though you put on perfume, people think they can cover it up.
Yes.
You just smell like smoke and perfume.
Breath mints don't help.
Breath mints and cigarettes.
No.
I can give an outdoor example why we want not just the multi-unit housing, but our outdoor parks and spaces. Because there is a family that, you know, they had a toddler and they were out in the park. And as you can imagine, you know, watching kids, you know, you can't see them every minute of the day. But they turned to help someone. They turned back, and their 2-year-old had picked up a cigarette butt and had put it in their mouth already. And so that was definitely a concern of that mother, why she was supportive of smoke-free multi-unit housing and outdoor spaces in the areas, because children may get a hold of these things when they're out in the park. She happened to be there to help her daughter, but what happens when children are playing in the parks and adults aren't really there, or aren't on site? Not to mention the tobacco waste, cigarette butts, vape cartridges, the little cigarillo things. Many of them are not biodegradable. A lot of people think that's cotton, but it's not. It's actually plastic, and it doesn't degrade, and it holds on to that nicotine over time, but over time it leaches out, and that can leach into our water, our waterways. It can leach into our plants and our ground, just making it just another place that's not safe for our kids to go.
Wow. So why is it important for people to share their stories and their struggles with quitting smoking?
That's particularly important because, as I mentioned earlier, it's not easy. Once people start, it's not easy for them to quit. It's costly for them, and they need support, because over time it's been shown to lead to the diseases that I mentioned: lung disease, heart disease, cancer, and so it's important for us to celebrate those people who have quit, because a lot of people actually have their stories where they've quit, what it took for them to quit. They're quitting for their parents, like you mentioned. They're quitting for themselves, but they need that support to make sure that they are that they know that they're not alone. And that's what we want to do with Breaking Free Day in November, is celebrate people who are on that quitting journey. And so they're not only encouraging themselves, but they're encouraging others.
And when we share our stories, we're helping somebody else. They may be embarrassed about it, but when you hear my story, it kind of loosens you up and you feel safe. Okay, I can talk to them. Maybe there is hope for me.
You know, as a kid, when I was in school, they used to talk about, no smoking growing up. And my mother was a smoker because she had been smoking ever since she was, at the time, 13 years old. And so, very young. And so I remember I used to go home and tell my mom, Mom, stop smoking. And she used to say, I've been smoking before you was thought of. But do you know, one day, God delivered my mom from smoking. And it was nobody but God. She threw it all in one day. She threw her cigarettes away, remember back in the days, they used to put the cigarettes in the little pouch, cute little color pouch. She threw the whole thing away and never picked up another cigarette until the day she died.
Yes.
So I know there's delivering power in God too. So thank you, Pastor, for what you're doing. So thank you so much for that. So, so Pastor Deborah, you've had conversations with young people about tobacco and vaping. What insights have you gained from these discussions, and how can others approach this topic with their children?
I have learned a whole lot talking to these young folks. I did not know that the vaping devices could look like a cell phone or a flash drive or anything, nor did I know they taste so good. They were telling me they're flavored like watermelon, cherry, strawberry, bubblegum, all these flavors. And so you think your child is sitting there studying and they're vaping and you don't even know it. So those are some of the things that I learned from talking to the kids. And I open up to them by telling them my story of when I had my first puff. Some cousins took me to the library. My parents thinking we're being studious and we're going to the library. We climbed up in that tree and they brought out the cigarettes, and it burned my chest so bad it was enough for me. But they're telling me now it doesn't burn. It tastes good. And so those are some of the things that I learned from the kids about this deadly poison that they're ingesting, and it just stays with them unless they're educated at an early stage in their life. Because in one of our meetings I found out that vaping, kids 5 years old, can you imagine a kid at 5 years old? Can you imagine a kindergartner vaping?
And as parents, we got to be aware what these devices look like.
Yes.
Like you said, cell phones. A cousin, she came by, and I said, "Oh, that is such a cute pen, girl. You got." I thought it was a writing pen.
Yes.
It was a marijuana vape.
Okay.
I was like, "Oh my gosh." Okay,
Yes.
I now have to get back on it now. You have to pay more attention, because I had no idea. Even when I was walking down Rodeo Drive, I seen so many young people vaping.
Yes.
Because they'll just put up real quick and they put their hand. It's not until you see the smoke, that comes out their mouth, because it's so quick.
Right.
And as parents, you just got to stay on top of it. It's exhausting, but we have to keep our kids safe and to know what's going on and pay attention to everything.
Yes.
Because our ignorance can be right in our house and we don't even know it.
That's lack of knowledge.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go, Pastor Deborah. And so recent surveys have shown changes in youth smoking and vaping trends. What should parents know about the rising trend of vaping among middle school students, and how can they address it?
Well, 12.6%, that's a 1.97 million high school students, and 6.6, that's 800,000 middle school students reported current use of tobacco products.
Now, how many you say? Say that number again.
1.97 million, that's 12.6%. That's for high school and middle school. 6.8%, that's 800,000 students reported use of tobacco products.
And people that are listening right now, it could be your child.
It could be
your
grandchild or your niece or your nephew. And then they think that the aerosol isn't harmless, that it's just water vapor. It's an aerosol that's mixed with nicotine, propylene glycol, solvents, chemical flavoring, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's harmful to our bodies.
I saw some lungs of some people that were vaping, and I had never seen lungs like that. It's worse than cigarettes.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they think, oh, it's clear, so it must be like water, but it's not. It's
Yes.
not, and you don't know who made it, where it came from, so you have no idea of what those extra chemicals things are in there that can hurt you. And a lot of times youth are doing it, right, and it's becoming younger and younger. Now the middle school students are picking it up, and we've got early as 5 because they're seeing the paid behavior that's modeled to them.
Correct.
And so they want to do that as well. And a lot of people think that it helps them with stress, but really that when they start going through the withdrawal symptoms, that increases anxiety, and it's been shown for many people that it increases the amount of depression sets that they have as well. So we want to make sure that they know it may not be helping you as much as you think it is.
I watched a Netflix documentary on some young people that were vaping, and the difficulties. One girl, she literally told her parents, I'm not going to stop because of the withdrawals. So she just chose not to stop at all because she didn't want to deal with the withdrawals.
And then some of them do stop because of the effects that it's having on their lungs already. And so that's why we have to be proactive in what we're doing, not wait till the kids have some irreversible harm done to them, but we have to step in there, have conversations, not starting off with, I know my kid not doing this, but open the door so they're comfortable enough to say, hey, I got a problem here.
Oh, that's so good.
Younger generations are concerned about the environment, they're concerned about their overall health, and not wanting to put toxins in their bodies, but they're being misled about what's actually in those fruity flavored aerosols.
So for our listeners, how can listeners get involved in supporting smoke-free communities, and what actions can they take if they're dealing with secondhand smoke in their living spaces?
Well, Soul Project has a smokers complaint line, and so you can either email us at smokecomplaints at thesoulproject.com, or you can call us. We have a phone number as well that you can call us through and let us know, and we can send you information and work with you to help you advance smoke-free communities in your community.
And what resources are available for individuals who want to quit smoking? They're listening right now.
Kick It California. Kick It California. Google it. Go there. There are resources to help you stop.
And they can allow you to, if you want it via text, if you want it online, if you want a personal coach, there are resources that can help you. And there's programs out there that can support you in not smoking. And if you are someone who knows of someone who is trying to quit, we can also share with you tips and tools how to be a supportive person to that person who is trying to quit.
And here's the number as well. There's a number. If you have a pen and paper, it's 888-774-7685, and the extension is 500. I'm going to give that number again. It's 888-774-7685, and the extension is 500. And as Pastor Deborah Simmons said, go to Kick It California, Kick It CA, right? Visit KICKITCA. That's it. .org. Okay, great. .org. So make sure you go there today and get you some information. There is help available. You just have to reach out and get the help. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want the audience to know before we go?
Oh, thank you. It's been a joy to be here talking with you, and just to know that we are here to support anyone who's interested in quitting smoking or interested in finding out how they can do more to create smoke-free multi-unit housing and outdoor spaces.
And I want to say thank you. This was very educational. I had no idea that it stuck to our melanin. The nicotine sticks to our melanin in our skin, and it makes it more difficult, because I have a lot of relatives, as many people do, that still smoke, and they're struggling with smoking. And now it makes a lot more sense to me why the addiction is so bad, and get the help that you need to stop smoking. Again, thank you so much, ladies, for coming on the show, and I look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.